What would you do if your hiking mates suddenly vanished ahead of sunset? Just recently on Tasmania's popular South Coast track, I saw this exact situation unfold. A couple of young hikers, fit, well geared up, confident, nearly walked into a rescue scenario over something as simple as poor communication. Here's what happened. I'd just finished my day's hike when two hikers arrived at camp coming off the notorious Ironbound Range, looking visibly distressed.
Have you seen our mates?
They asked me. We hadn't, and daylight was fading. I suggested they backtrack immediately for 20 minutes or so before sunset, and it's a good thing they did. 20 minutes later, the whole group returned safely. Turns out one of their friends had gastro and ducked just off the trail to rest, completely out of sight. No note, no marker, no system. They'd passed each other without even realising, and they hadn't left a single sign. And that moment really stuck with me because this was not dangerous terrain, extreme weather, or technical failure. It was a beautiful day, but it was a preventable mistake and it could have become serious fast. And that's the real lesson. Most multi-day hiking failures don't happen because of cliffs or storms. They happen because of simple, avoidable mistakes and often a day hiker mindset applied to a multi-day trip. And it's not just me saying that either. In a recent survey of my entire community across YouTube and my newsletter, 71% of people that responded said their biggest challenge wasn't fitness or gear, it was planning, logistics, or managing a hike as a complete system. And this insight has been crucial in developing my upcoming multi-day hiking blueprint course. These pitfalls aren't always obvious, yet I've seen even experienced hikers stumble over them. So in this video, I'm breaking down the 5 most common pitfalls that derail multi-day hikes. Mistakes I've seen in over 30 years of guiding, mentoring, and learning the hard way. And more importantly, I'll show you the simple proven actions that'll help you avoid every single one of them. But before we dive into these mistakes, well, imagine this. You're on day 3 of your hike, cresting that final ridge with energy to spare. Your pack feels balanced, you've eaten well, and you're actually enjoying the journey. You're not just enduring it. That summit view you worked so hard to reach, you have the presence of mind to truly appreciate it, rather than collapsing in exhaustion. This isn't just possible, it's exactly what happens when you avoid these 5 critical mistakes. So let's start with the one that literally weighs the most. Overpacking without prioritization. So a lot of hikers overpack out of fear. Fear of being cold, fear of being wet, fear of being hungry, or just plain uncomfortable. And honestly, that fear is definitely valid. When you're unsure, it's tempting to throw in extras for those just-in-case scenarios. Another fleece, a spare pair of pants, more food than you'll ever eat. But here's the truth. Overpacking usually means you haven't yet built full trust in your gear system. Even after 30 years of hiking, I still catch myself. I'll glance at the forecast, pause and think, should I just toss in one more jacket, another vest? Maybe I'll chuck in my vest that I never wear when I take it. Well, that's when I stop and I go back to what I know works, my proven system. Because overpacking isn't really about being prepared, it's about second-guessing a process you haven't fully dialed in yet. The real solution? Build your core system. Now, what you need isn't more gear, it's more certainty. And certainty comes from a personal, proven system that keeps you safe, warm, and comfortable in a range of conditions. Start with your essentials, the non-negotiables. Things like a reliable rain protection system, your waterproofs, a shelter system, a complete sleep system setup, cooking and hydration gear, first aid and safety supplies, insulation and base layers. This is your core kit, the gear that earns its place on every single trip. Once that's locked in, then and only then layer in the nice to haves. Maybe a sit pad or even a chair if you're feeling fancy. Some nice coffee, an inflatable pillow, or a luxury camp meal. These are bonuses, not safety nets. The Core Plus method. And how do I organize all of my kit? Well, I've got what I've called the Core Plus method. So I've got my core. These are the essentials that go in my pack on every single trip. Summer, winter, any time of the year, they always go. And for different seasons, I might have a slightly different core kit, but it's generally the same. I might have a warmer jacket for winter. I'll take out the lighter jacket. Then you've got the plus items. These are the comfort items only added if space and weight allow, and then if I'm happy to carry them. You want to be refining your system over time with quick audits. After every hike, take 5 minutes for a gear audit. Lay everything out and ask, what didn't I use at all? What was absolutely essential? And what can I confidently leave behind next time? This simple habit builds trust in your kit. Over time, you'll intuitively know what works, when to adjust, and when to leave the extras behind. You'll hike lighter, move easier, and enjoy the trail without second-guessing yourself. And obviously, don't throw out those emergency items like a first aid kit and personal locator beacon. You need them. Keep them in there always, even if you don't use them. Keep them as part of your core kit, but know what goes in your core kit. But even the best packed bags won't save your trip if your route planning is off. Let's talk about another common mistake: poor planning around water and how it can unravel even the most carefully prepared hikes.
Poor route planning, especially around water.
Now, even the most carefully packed bag won't save your hike if your route planning falls short, especially when it comes to water. A lot of hikers carefully plan routes around distance and elevation, but often overlook energy demands, terrain difficulty, and critical resources like water. Here in Tasmania, where I live, sure, it rains often, but that doesn't mean water is always easily accessible. Especially in the alpine regions, water can be deceptively scarce. You might spot waterfalls in the distance or tarns over there in the valley below, yet still find yourself stranded on a hot ridge, sun beating down with no refill points in sight.
The nearest trip.
Now, a few years ago, I was deep in central Tasmania on a remote 6-day route. We knew we were heading into a notoriously dry stretch. So before committing to the exposed peak that we were heading to, each of us loaded up with 8 litres of water at the last reliable source, an extra 8 kilograms of water on our back. Now, this was heavy but necessary. The day was brilliant. We hiked, summited a beautiful peak, and discovered an incredible ridgeline campsite. Stunning mountain views, warm sunshine, and even a surprise Coca-Cola from my mate Croft. Morale was sky high. But the following day was a different story. We set off early in the morning, tackling a relentless series of rugged peaks and exhausting climbs, aiming for one of the toughest and most isolated mountains in the Cradle Mountain region, Mount Nereus, or Nereus, however you want to pronounce it. There was thick scrub, relentless sun, steep ascents, and by the time we reached the summit, well, we were utterly exhausted and dangerously low on water. And we still had to retrace our steps back to camp, another 6 hours ahead of us, back on the same route we had come in on. As we retraced our steps, our original water plan started to unravel. The supposed refill spot that we had heard about was bone dry. We'd heard from friends that there was a water source just off our route. We spent nearly an hour desperately searching. Eventually, we stumbled upon a tiny puddle hidden deep in some scrub. We drank like kings, scooping up every precious drop we could. By the time we finally made it back to camp after 12 exhausting hours of climbing scrub-choked ridges and tackling some of the toughest terrain I'd faced in years, I was completely cooked, but hydrated, just. So what can you do? Well, plan for water like it's critical, because it is. Never assume water will be available just because it's marked on a map. Pre-identify every potential water source along your route and plan conservatively between them. Use topographic maps, recent online trip reports, forums, and weather forecasts, all of them together, to gauge the current conditions, especially in summer or on exposed terrain. In Tassie, ridgelines often mean long dry stretches, even when surrounded by mist or distant tarns. Always carry a reliable water treatment method, even if you think you won't need it. And most importantly, if in doubt, carry extra. The temporary discomfort of extra weight beats serious risk of dehydration in remote country. And remember, good planning isn't just about reaching your destination, it's about staying safe, functional, and comfortable along the way. But here's the thing, even perfect planning can't help if your body isn't ready to handle the demands of the trail. Carrying 8 litres of water, scrambling over car-sized boulders, pushing through thick scrub for hours on end, well, that kind of terrain will expose any weakness very fast. And this brings us to mistake number 3. And it's one that I see all too often, thinking general fitness is enough.
Inadequate physical preparation.
Now, a solid route plan and a perfectly packed bag won't get you far if your body isn't ready for the trail's demands. Many hikers new to multi-day missions can tend to train on flat tracks or short neighbourhood strolls or not train at all. But multi-day hiking is a completely different beast to day hikes. Long climbs, uneven terrain, heavy packs, and consecutive days of sustained effort. And on a 2 or 3 day hike, you might scrape by, but once you're out there for 5, 6, or 8 days, or even longer, specific physical preparation makes a massive difference. Even after decades on the trail, I still notice when I undertrain. On that recent South Coast track trip that I was on, I hadn't spent enough time in the weeks leading up walking with a fully loaded pack on. And by day 3, I was feeling it. My body was working harder than necessary simply because I hadn't followed my own advice. It was a valuable reminder. Your body doesn't care how experienced you are. If you don't train for the specific conditions, you'll pay the price. And here's a tip. Train like you hike. Use your actual hiking pack loaded with realistic trail weight. I like to put bags of pasta and bags of rice in there. Walk hills, walk stairs and uneven trails, not just flat pavement. And start with 30 to 60 minute sessions, gradually increasing your training duration and frequency each week. Focus on time on your feet and terrain variety not just distance. Here's my personal approach. Most weekdays I will walk 30 to 40 minutes to and from work, rain, hail or shine. In the lead up to a hike, I'm carrying a different pack, my hot pack I'm probably going to take, and I gradually increase my pack weight using gear or the rice bags I talked about. And eventually I'll be reaching, 15 to 20 kilograms if I've got a big trip coming. And if you want a clear system to follow, well, I've created a simple hiking fitness planner you can use to map out your weekly training and build trail-ready endurance the smart way. It's not about crushing yourself, it's about consistency. So you can download that in the link down below. And here is a little bonus tip to get strength without going to the gym. Add these simple exercises into your weekly routine. Some squats, some lunges, some calf raises. You could even throw in a few planks if you want to. Even 5 minutes a day makes a noticeable difference. Personally, I do calf raises while brushing my teeth. These small habits build the strength you need for steep climbs, tough descents, and heavy packs. The bottom line is general fitness is great, but specific training is what truly matters. Train for the exact terrain, the pack weight, and the sustained effort you're going to face. And your body will thank you when you're out there. Trust me on this one. Now, picture this. You've trained hard, your legs feel strong, your pack's dialed right in perfectly, but by day 3, your energy suddenly crashes, your stomach feels off, and you're sick of every snack that you packed. Does it sound familiar? Well, that's because physical preparation alone isn't enough. You also need to fuel your body correctly when you're out on the track. So let's talk about the next big mistake some hikers make: poor nutrition planning and how to avoid it.
Meal planning mistakes.
So you can be fit, trained and perfectly packed, but if you get food wrong, well, it'll sabotage everything. And too many people obsess over calories but forget the most important question. Will I actually want to eat this after 8 exhausting hours when I'm out on the track? Trail food isn't just fuel, it is recovery. It's morale, and when meals feel like a chore, well, everything becomes harder. When I started hiking, I lived on 2-minute noodles and dry pasta. Now, it worked, but barely. Since then, I've tested it all. Freeze-dried meals, do-it-yourself dehydrated meals, cold-soaked lunches, all sorts of crazy stuff. Even now, I occasionally slip up, tossing in a meal thinking, this one will be fine. But spoiler alert, it usually isn't. That's why my current system prioritizes 3 things. Tested in real-world conditions, easy to prepare, even when exhausted, and genuinely enjoyable, no matter the weather or the mood. Because on the track, food equals morale, and morale equals fuel.
Smarter trail nutrition in 5 simple steps.
First, plan for cravings, not just calories. Low energy nights happen. Prepare quick, easy meals like no-cook lunches or 5-minute dinners. This can be as simple as just a nice tasting freeze-dried meal. And you can use my hiking meal planner, also down below, to easily calculate food weight, nutritional balance, and most importantly, meals you'll actually look forward to. Aim for calorie-dense foods. Now, I find I can live off when I'm hiking around 700 to 900 grams of food per day, providing me between sort of 3,500 to 5,000 calories, depending on pack weight, terrain, conditions, and the effort I'm going to expend. And when you look at studies of long-distance hikers, such as those on the Pacific Crest Trail or people heading to Everest base camp, treks, that sort of thing, the studies show that calorie-dense foods significantly reduce pack weight while still providing essential energy for recovery, even when running a daily calorie deficit. Follow a proven nutritional balance. When you look at the research, this simple nutritional breakdown consistently works well when you're out on the track. 50 to 60% of food could be carbs, which gives quick energy for climbs and for heavy packs. 30 to 35% could be fats, and they're the more dense calories for sustained long-lasting fuel. Then 10 to 15% in protein, essential for muscle recovery and repair. And a 2004 study in the Journal of Sports Sciences confirmed that sufficient carbohydrate intake directly improves endurance, especially when hiking at altitude or carrying heavy loads. And the other thing is to test your meals before you hit the track. Never rely on a meal you haven't tried at home, or at least on a quick overnight trip. Test it. If it fails when you test it, well, it'll fail even harder on the trail. Boost simplicity with flavour hacks. You don't need gourmet cooking, just good taste. Try packing lightweight flavour boosters like, little sachets of sauce or olive oil packets or taco seasoning, curry powder or dried herbs, salt and pepper, that type of thing. I love to take a bit of peanut butter, even powdered peanut butter is great these days for putting onto a small biscuit or something at lunchtime. I love the peanut butter. These small additions weigh almost nothing, but they'll save your sanity when morale dips. Your meal plan isn't just logistics, it's your energy, your recovery, your safety, and in the end, your morale. So whether you're heading out for 2 days or 2 weeks, plan your food like your entire hike depends on it. So we've got our gear dialed in, we've got the food sorted, it's all great. Now, let's talk about the one thing that can unravel it all, and that is your mindset. Mental resilience fails. So you can have the fitness, the food, and the gear, but if your mindset slips, everything else quickly follows. Multi-day hiking isn't just physically challenging, it is mentally demanding. When the rain sets in, your feet ache, and your campsite is still hours away, your most critical asset isn't what's in your pack, it's what's in your head. Now, back in 2000, on our second attempt at Federation Peak, after 3 days, we had made it to a place called Stewart Saddle, a stunning but fairly exposed campsite. And that's when my mate slumped down, head in hands, to tell me,
I lost the tent poles.
no proper shelter, a long way from help, and rain forecast overnight. We were stuffed, but we were not defeated. We quickly built a makeshift tarp shelter using guy lines and a bit of creativity. It wasn't pretty, and it cost us the summit attempt, but it got us safely through the night. Now, here's what that tough night taught me. It's not about avoiding every problem, it's about how you handle them when they inevitably show up uninvited. Stay calm, focus on the next move, keep going. The next 10 meters rule. Now, when your motivation crashes, don't zoom out, zoom in. Forget the summit, forget the next climb, just focus on getting to the next tree, to the next bend, to the next trail marker. This simple mental shift can carry you through the toughest moments, especially when you're exhausted, especially when you're soaked and you're questioning why you even left the comfort of your couch at home. I use this strategy on all of my trips, bad weather days, and long hauls when the end feels impossibly far away. Zoom in, stay present, take one small step at a time. That's true trail resilience. Bringing it all together. So these 5 mistakes we've covered, physical preparation, food, gear, logistics, and mindset, can all be fixed. But these issues are actually symptoms of something deeper, not having a clear, proven system. Imagine if you had a simple, reliable framework that tied all of these elements, gear, route planning, food, fitness, and mindset, into one cohesive process. In the next video, I'll reveal the complete framework that transforms these 5 common mistakes into a streamlined approach. It's the exact system I've used to successfully guide dozens of multi-day trips through some of Australia's most challenging terrain. It's not about avoiding mistakes, it's about creating a repeatable process that works consistently, regardless of the track or the conditions. And I call it the Trails framework. This framework forms the foundation of my multi-day hiking blueprint course. Honestly, it's exactly what I wish I'd had when I was starting out. So if you're ready to make your next hike smoother, stronger, and way more enjoyable, then check out the full 3-part multi-day hiking series, link below once it's fully released, and watch the next video on the Trails framework right up here. We'll build your entire hiking system step by step.